Welcome back. I'll be reading chapter 24 and 25 of the Superteacher Project by Gordon Korman. So, last chapter we had Oliver and Nathan, and the whole class went on a field trip out in the woods, and they ended up on the wrong side of the river. And here comes Mr. Adact plowing through the river to get them back. In the process, Mr. Perkins, who never leaves his side, knocks himself out. It's kind of his own fault. But now they're at the hospital. So now we're 24 with Rosalie. I'm not exactly sure how I get past the waiting room and into the real hospital. One minute I'm standing there with Oliver, and the next I'm backing up to let a wheelchair go by, and oops. I feel a rush of heavy air as the doors close behind me, and suddenly I'm in. I'm super aware that I don't belong here in my soaked orienteering clothes, tracking mud down from my knees, but the place is so busy and nobody notices me. Doctors and nurses rush by. Their eyes linger on me for just a second. I'm probably somebody's patient, but not theirs. I wander down the hall with the numbered examination rooms. Mr. Adact and Mr. Perkins have to be in one of these, but how do I find the right one? Mr. Perkins is a crabby kind of guy who knows nothing about field hockey, but I sure hope he's okay. There's no fracture, comes a voice from room 6. I'll just tape you up and send you on your way. I peek into the doorway, but the patient's a lady with a swollen ankle. I'm leaving muddy footprints on the floor, and I feel bad. This is supposed to be a clean and sterile place. And that's when I realize the prints up ahead aren't mine. I haven't gone that far yet. They must have come from somebody else with muddy shoes. Mr. Adact. I follow the mud spots, and they lead up the hall and directly into room 11. Carefully, I peer in through the doorway. Mr. Perkins is sitting upright on the exam table. He's wrapped up in blankets, and there's a thick bandage on his forehead. But his eyes are open, and he's talking. It looks okay. Mr. Adact is standing opposite of him in that weird way that he does. No moving. Still as a statue. Should I go in? No, probably shouldn't. I'm not supposed to be here at all. I'm pondering what to do when a doctor breezes past me into the room. It seems to be a slight concussion. As he approaches the patient, Mr. Adak backs out of the way, and he accidentally steps onto the electronic scale. My eyes are riveted to the readout. Either the scale is broken, or my teacher weighs 576 pounds. Shocked, I stagger back, almost as if somebody shoved me. I manage a couple of steps, and then I collide with a nurse, who only keeps me upright while also juggling a tray of stainless steel instruments. Sorry. She takes my mud smeared state and assumes that I'm a patient. What room are you in? No, 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 no room. My teacher, I mean my student teacher, she takes my arm and she steers me towards the exit. Get out of here. Now. I stumble along, racking my brain for excuses, but only one thought registers with me. 576 pounds. 576 pounds. Mr. Adact, my field hockey coach, weighs 576 pounds. And then I'm in the waiting room, and the heavy doors are shut behind me once again. Through the floor to ceiling windows, I can see Mrs. Berg loading up the bus, and she's frantic about something as I run outside. 53, she's exclaiming in exaggeration. There were 54 at Hickenlooper. Who's missing? It's okay, Mrs. Berg. It was just me. But we can't go yet. Mr. Adact and Mr. Perkins are still inside. Good news, though. Perkins is okay. Ainsley catches up to me. Our driver has to Uber here so he can get us back to the school. We're not waiting for Mr. Perkins or Mr. Adact. Principal Candiotti's coming for them. I practically fall into the empty seat across the aisle from Oliver and Nathan. Long day? Oliver asks with a sympathetic grin. Our teacher weighs 576 pounds, I burst. As soon as the words are out of my mouth, it hits me. The buzz about a robot teacher. It's true. But it isn't Mrs. Berg or any of the others. It's Adact. I can't believe I didn't see it before. It's been right in front of me. His instant knowledge of everything. The fact that nobody's ever seen him eat or drink, and he doesn't move a muscle when he stands still. It's like he turned himself off or something. His strength, his field hockey knowledge. He hit a hockey ball off the field house that traveled 300 yards through the air and still had the power to break a windshield. And his student teacher. I think of the strange metal instruments inside his briefcase. Those have to be robot tools. Mr. Adact is a robot, I barely whisper. And what's their reaction? Shock? Amazement? Disbelief? Shh, Oliver hisses. You knew? How could you know? We spied on him, Nathan admits. He has panels. He looks like a computer inside. He's a department of the Education Project, Oliver adds. Project ADACT. It stands for Artificially Intelligent Designated Android Classroom Teacher. We found the whole plan on this website. They told the faculty, but nobody else. And you just sat there on this little piece of information. You didn't think anybody else might need to know? He's my teacher, too. And he's my coach. The coaching. How could I miss this? A guy with zero experience somehow turns a collection of amateurs who don't know the end of a stick into a team competing for state championship. Every time he switched our positions, he turned out to be 100% right, always maximizing each girl's talent with the job she had to do. Every new attack he designed worked like a charm, almost like he could see it playing out in his mind. Because he could. His mind isn't a mind, it's a computer. The Department of Education is trying to keep it a secret, Oliver exclaims. We didn't want to go up against them. Besides, who would you have believed? Us? He's got a point. Something like this is almost impossible to swallow, even as I've seen hard evidence. I never could have accepted it from a couple of clowns like Oliver and Nathan. You still could have warned me, I say resentfully. If he'd stepped on my foot, he would have shattered every single one of my toes. Oh, we never knew how much he weighed, Oliver admits. Although, now that you mention it, I did see the Prius running a little lopsided with Mr. Adact in it. All the way back to Brightling, my mind feels like a bag of microwave popcorn. Ideas are heating up and exploding, filling my brain. Mr. Adact isn't human. My teacher, my coach, is a machine. A fancy, sophisticated one, but a machine all the same. And every time he says my name, he's using a name that he learned through artificial intelligence. He doesn't know me. Facial recognition software compares my image to others in his database. I replay every interaction I've ever had with him, dating back to that first day of school when he caught Oliver's spitball. None of it's real. All those weeks, they're just a lie. You build a relationship with a teacher, and mine turns out to be not even human. It hurts with the Bobcats, though. We're all so close to him. At least we thought we were. When we took over, we were just a bunch of clueless nobodies. I only signed on to pad up my resume. But he built us into a real team. What was that all about? A computer algorithm? When he got thrown out of our first game and had to watch from the roof of our bus in the parking lot, did his programming make him do that? When he celebrates with us, fights with us, suffers with us, it's all because some chip tells him what to feel. Of course it is. Machines can't feel anything. Mr. Adact isn't any more human than a dishwasher or a microwave. Oh, he's convincing, I'll give him that. The Department of Education built a very believable robot. He sure fooled me. He fooled everybody. But once you know, you can never go back. How are the other girls going to react when this news reaches them? The team is undefeated. We're on an 11-game winning streak with that opening game tie. In 2 weeks, we play the Seahawks again at the championships. We are that close to replacing that trophy that was stolen on Halloween. What will happen to the Bobcats when everybody learns the truth? Oh, we're the same players. Cassidy bagging goals, Letitia defending our net, the rest of us doing our jobs and getting better every week. But everything will be different. It was against the Sheridan Seahawks that we dug ourselves out of a 6-0 hole because Mr. Adact brought us back with the sheer force of heart. Or so we thought. When the news gets around that he doesn't have a heart, what'll happen? When we finally pull into the front of Brightling, Nathan asks in a small voice, Are you gonna tell anybody? I'm tempted to say yes, purely out of spite. If there's anyone at Brightling who doesn't deserve loyalty from me, it has to be these two. But do I want to be like Kevin, spilling the beans about every little thing because I'm incapable of keeping a secret? I shake my head. It doesn't matter if we figured it out. Other people will too. 576-pound teacher is kind of hard to hide. The rain has finally stopped, and I'm actually looking forward to walking home. Maybe it'll give me a chance to clear my head, but when I get off the bus, there's my mom. Hi, honey, she greets me. How was orienteering? It was a disaster. That's nice. Of course, she's not listening to me. She's watching the people behind me follow down the steps of the bus. Just as I suspected, she's hoping to run into Mr. Adact. That's the worst part of this. It's awful that my teacher's a robot, but my mother now has a crush on him. I see Mrs. Berg. But didn't Mr. Adact go too? Where is he? At the hospital. The hospital? Is he hurt? I have to hold myself back from saying something that could not fix this. Nothing that a hospital could fix anyway. Elon Musk could fix him, but not a doctor. I bite my tongue. His student teacher got a concussion. Orienteering isn't for tourists, you know, Mom. For the first time, she takes in the state of my clothes. I can see that. I guess I better get you home to the laundry. Not sure those shoes could be saved. All the way in the car, she pushes me for information. Poor Mr. Adact. He must have been very upset that Perkins got injured. Mom, don't worry about Mr. Adact. He doesn't take things too hard. You don't know Mr. Adact like I do, she insists. He may seem cool and distant on the surface, but deep down he's very sensitive. He'd feel terrible if anything happened to a student teacher. I don't know whether to laugh or to scream. If there's one word that you should never use when you're talking about Mr. Adact, Mom, it's feel. Rosalie, what are you talking about? We pull into the driveway, and without answering, I just jump out of the car and storm into the house. Mom is hot on my heels. I know this isn't the kind of thing a young girl expects to hear from her mother, but I'm a single woman now. I think Mr. Adact and I might have a connection. I lose it. No, there is no connection. Zero. Nothing. Should be absolutely nothing between you and Mr. Adact, Mom. I try to run away, but she grabs my wrist and wheels me around. Rosalie, we need to talk. Her expression is stern, but then it breaks into sympathy and compassion. She thinks I'm upset that she wants to start dating again. How could I make her see that that is not the problem? I'm an adult. I think I know more about this relationship than you do, honey. Trust me, Mom, you don't. She's beginning to lose her patience. Give me one reason why Mr. Adact and I can't. Because he's a robot. Honey, that is an unkind thing to say. He may be a little standoffish, but it's not unkind. It's true. He's a real robot like C3PO and Wally. He's a pilot project for the Department of Education to create an android teacher, Mom. He has more in common with a toaster than he has with you. You can't have a relationship with him because he isn't he's not human. I pause to catch my breath. But my mother is staring at me in wide-eyed shock. Chapter 25, Confidential Report to the Department of Education, Washington, D.C. from Paul Perkins, P.E. Project ADACT. Recent alarming events has caused me to question the workability of the entire ADACT project. On a school field trip, the unit took several extraordinary actions, none of which could have been predicted by the Department of Education. In each case, ADAC was protecting students and or the project engineer from harm. In that way, the unit's decisions were correct. But because the situation was so far from anything we could have planned for, I question whether we can ever safely say that an ADAC unit is truly under its own control. At one point, the unit operated a motor vehicle full of passengers. As it turned out, ADAC did do well, but still, the mere fact that we didn't know that the unit is actually capable of this is deeply disturbing. The project is on very thin ice now. We must watch carefully and be ready to shut it down for the first sign of trouble. Project status yellow. Special expenses, medical bills. So here we have Mr. Adax. He was acting very uncharacteristic. And honestly, it sounds like it kind of scared Mr. Perkins. What do you think?